Honorable members, can we welcome the President of the Republic?
The grand entry of His Excellency the President Mwai Kibaki, and he's come to be the 10th Parliament farewell. It is his last time in office after serving Kenyans for a decade, and as the life of the 10th Parliament comes to an end, the President, who is also the Uthaya Member of Parliament, is here for a special session. And we do expect that in his speech to the parliamentarians, as they also prepare to face the electorate once again in March, he will be seeking them to unite the country. This is going by the speech he gave during Jamhuri Day. He will also maybe move to highlight strides made under his tenure, and this could be likely the economic growth, the improved road and railway network, the growth in ICT, enhanced freedoms, especially with the mushrooming of many radio and TV stations, and most importantly, the passage of the new constitution. And the President is expected to make his speech once the National Assembly Speaker Kenneth Marende introduces him this afternoon. Just to remind you again, it's a special session in Parliament when President Mwai Kibaki is expected to address the 10th Parliament for the final time before he retires.
Speaker, Deputy Speaker, kadi yake. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. We will now proceed from order number 7 to the next order.
Order number 8, Presidential Address to Parliament.
Order, honorable members. Honorable members, please be guided that we are proceeding under Standing Order number 16. And we will commence as follows. Your Excellency, the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Mwai Kibaki. Honorable members, it is my privilege, honor, and pleasure to, on behalf of all honorable members, welcome Your Excellency, the President, to the House this afternoon. This day is set to go into the annals of history of our country as of most worthy significance, as one on which Your Excellency formally delivered your final address, fully so as the member after 49 years of uninterrupted service. It has been a long race, but like in all races, including the ones Kenyans are famous for winning world over, it is not so much your running mannerisms that matter. It is how you finish the race. I am persuaded, Your Excellency, and I believe that I speak for all of us, your finish is splendid, deserving of prime accolades. Your Excellency, as all the honorable members are no doubt aware, your political career started in Makerere University when you became the chairman of the Kenya Students Association and the vice chairman of Makerere Students Guild yet still attained a first-class honors degree in economics. With your permission, Your Excellency, allow me to cite a few salient features in your illustrious political career, and more so as a legislator. In March 1960, you were involved in founding the KANU Party, and in the month of order, honorable members, order, honorable members, order, honorable members, honorable members, even if I started with Kenya, it would be Kenya African National Union Party. And in the month of December the same year, Your Excellency, you left your lecturer's job at Makerere University and returned home to be the executive officer of the party. In Kenyan parlance, as a way of underscoring the work the founding membership of the party did, for more than 30 years thereafter, KANU was Baba na Mama in this. KANU was Baba na Mama in this country's political arena. Your Excellency was first elected to Parliament in 1963 as Member of Parliament for Donholm constituency, starting a long career here that saw you serve as Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister for Commerce and Industry, Minister for Finance and Economic Planning, 1970 to 78, Member for Othaya constituency, 1974 to date, founded DP, the Democratic Party, in 1991, 1978, Vice President of the Republic of Kenya, and to illustrate your checkered political career, Leader of the Official Opposition, and finally, the President of the Republic of Kenya, beginning the 30th December, year 2002. It is no wonder, Your Excellency, that the World Bank President, Robert McNamara, described Your Excellency thus, and I quote, one of the greatest economic brains to have emerged from Africa, unquote. Your Excellency, you will allow me to pause so that the member for Kisumu Rural and the Honorable Nanok, the member for Mathira, do not suffer for too long. Very well. Your Excellency, there is the addition of the member for Ugenya to the list. Your Excellency led this House from the front to the enactment of the new Constitution in the year 2010. In this regard, and generally, I wish to acknowledge and appreciate the unfailing and continued support that I, as the Speaker, and indeed the whole of the National Assembly have received from Your Excellency. The Parliamentary Service Commission, which I'm privileged to chair, has accessed all the requisite funds to carry out all the programs in this institution. It has been a major challenge to prepare for the bicameral parliament, but with your wise counsel and guidance, we will be ready come March 2013. Your Excellency, this really, as a matter of fact and in fact, is your day, and I do not desire to say any more, but because on an occasion such as this will not come again in the foreseeable future, allow me to conclude by highlighting the achievements of the 10th Parliament during your tenure, Your Excellency. A, adoption of new standing orders that, among other things, made Parliament more robust in its operations, particularly parliamentary committees. B, enacted the Physical Management Act that has seen Parliament take a central role in national budget making in line with the Constitution. C, oversaw the constitution review process, the passage of the proposed constitution, and now its implementation. And D, oversaw the creation of independent commissions meant to safeguard democracy. E, enacted over 45 statutes intended to implement the new constitution. F, introduced live broadcast by television and radio of parliamentary proceedings in the chamber and in committees beginning from June 2009. G, started a media center within parliamentary premises to enhance interaction with the media and to enhance their access to information in the month of May 2009. And H, set up a parliamentary studies and training center to be a center of excellence in parliamentary training in Kenya and beyond, and in fact, Your Excellency, the first in East and Central Africa. I, rationalized staff establishment encompassing job evaluation and skills audit to ensure that we have the requisite and competent staff to effectively support the work of members of parliament. J, and finally, revamped the budget office, research department, and information and technology departments. Your Excellency, as members of the 10th Parliament and the entire Parliamentary Service Commission, and indeed I personally, wish to place on record our sincere gratitude to you for all these achievements. Finally, may I, with utmost humility, invite Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, to address this House.
Honorable Speaker, honorable members, I am pleased to join you for the special sitting of Parliament. The life of the 10th Parliament is about to come to an end, and as we look back at the last 5 years, there is plenty to be grateful for. This House has been one of the most active in our nation's history in terms of legislation passed. Together with the 9th Parliament, the last 10 years have indeed seen one of the highest number of bills passed in our nation's history. Indeed, Parliament has passed over 227 bills in the last 10 years. The year 2012 alone will go down in history as the busiest legislative calendar, with over 90 bills passed. Mr. Speaker, when this House was inaugurated, our country was recovering from one of its most challenging times since independence. The first pieces of legislation that were passed were the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill and the National Accord and Reconciliation Bill of the year 2008. These two laws set the foundation for establishment of the Grand Coalition government, as well as the efforts to bring about healing and reconciliation in our country. When the Grand Coalition government was formed, many skeptics doubted that it would serve its full term. I am grateful that we have not only served our full term, but have also significantly improved the lives of Kenyans. I thank the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga for his dedication and commitment. Despite the challenges we faced in the last 5 years, we were able to stay focused on the goal of transforming the social, economic, and political spheres of Kenya. I commend the Vice President, Kalonzo Musyoka, for his stewardship as leader of government business. I also thank the two Deputy Prime Ministers, Uhuru Kenyatta and Musalia Mudavadi, and all members of Parliament for their hard work. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your leadership and wisdom through which you have guided this august House. Kenyans will remember you fondly for your significant non-partisan and landmark rulings. Moreover, I commend this House for supporting the work of the Grand Coalition government through passing most legislation presented by the executive. Of these, the most significant was our annual budget. The budget is the most important policy document for a government, whereas it spells out how development programs will be managed and financed. I am pleased that this House passed all the 5 budgets presented by the government, and this enabled us implement our capacity building and development initiatives across the country. Mr. Speaker, this House will go down in history for the key role that it played in the constitutional review process that led to the promulgation of our Constitution in 2010. The Constitution of Kenya Review Act, which was passed by this House in the year 2008, provided a legal framework for the review of the Constitution and established the key organs that facilitated the process. These organs included the Committee of Experts and the Parliamentary Select Committee. These bodies, led by Senior Counsel Nzamba Gitonga and Honorable Abdikadir Muhammad, engaged Kenyans and worked hard to deliver a draft constitution. This was approved by this House and adopted by the people of Kenya in a referendum. After more than 20 years, we were finally able to achieve our goal of a new constitutional dispensation. Thereafter, this House has met all the laid out timelines and enacted the legislation required by the 5th schedule, and Kenyans are very proud of your achievements in this area. Indeed, you have set an example to the incoming parliament, which will have the responsibility of enacting the remaining laws that will give full effect to the Constitution by the year 2015. Mr. Speaker, the implementation of the Constitution has radically changed our government structures and led to significant reforms in the judiciary and our electoral process. Parliament has played an active role in this reform process. On the judiciary, Parliament enacted the Supreme Court of Kenya Act, the Judiciary Service Commission Act, and the Vetting of Judges and Magistrates Act, amongst others. On electoral reforms, this House passed the legislation on elections, political parties, and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. As a result, Kenyans now have significant faith in the judiciary as well as the electoral process in the country. In addition to passing these laws, the National Assembly has expeditiously overseen the vetting and approval of the constitutional office holders. Moreover, holders of independent offices, the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget, were approved by this House. These developments have ushered in a new era of accountability and confidence in public appointments. Parliament has also enacted prerequisite laws to implement devolution. These include 1. Public Finance Management Act, 2. County Government Act, 3. Intergovernmental Relations Act, 4. Transition to Devolved Government Act, and 5. Urban Areas and Cities Act. These laws provide a legal framework to anchor our transition from a central government to a devolved system as our Constitution provides. Devolution will bring government closer to the people and will also facilitate the involvement of wananchi in decision-making at all levels of governance. Mr. Speaker, one of the National Assembly's most critical roles is oversight over the executive. The 10th Parliament has performed this function with distinction and has been a faithful watchdog on behalf of the people of Kenya. The parliamentary committee system has been exceptionally active during the life of this parliament. For the first time in Kenya's history, Kenyans have watched members of the executive as well as other institutions account for their actions before people's representatives. The oversight on expenditure has been particularly impressive, with the parliamentary accounts and parliamentary investment committees being able to clear the backlog that had accumulated from the past. It will be the responsibility of the 11th Parliament to continue with these efforts of keeping the executive accountable. It is important, however, that this process is conducted in an atmosphere of mutual trust and decorum. Mr. Speaker, it is the responsibility of the government to provide security for its citizens and protect them from any internal or external threats. For some time, Kenya had suffered attacks from hostile elements based in Somalia who had links to international terror networks. In an effort to protect our territorial integrity, we pursued these terrorists into Somalia. The executive sought the approval of Parliament for this action. Our defense forces have made significant achievements in Somalia and are now part of the African Union mission in Somalia. As we celebrate their success, it is important for us to appreciate the role played by Parliament in this military operation. Mr. Speaker, I have been honored to serve my country as a member of this House since 1963. I thank God for His guidance through this long period. I also thank my constituents, both in the then Dunham, in Nairobi, and Othaya, for their faith in my leadership. In my different roles in Parliament, as a member of various parliamentary committees, leader of opposition, and leader of government business, I have developed the conviction that Parliament holds in its hands the ability to determine the destiny of our nation. Members of this House have the potential to radically improve the lives of the people of Kenya. Our Constitution, as well as the impressive legislative efforts of this House, have put in place a significantly different governance structure. After the elections next year, Kenya will have a two-tier government at the national and county level, a bicameral parliament, increased accountability for elected officials, and greater involvement by the public in governance at all levels. It is critical that Kenyans are led by competent leaders with high moral standards. I therefore call upon all Kenyans to vote wisely for the men and women who will sit in this House next year. Let us vote for leaders who put the interests of the people first and who are hardworking and visionary. For the first time in nearly 50 years, I will not be on any election ballot paper. However, most members of this August House will be running for election either as president, senator, governor, member of parliament, or women's representative. I wish you all the very best. I also call upon you, together with all other aspirants, to promote peace and national integration during and after the election period. Our full potential and destiny as a nation will be achieved when we live in harmony with each other and experience true unity in our diversity. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to once again thank this August House for its support to the Grand Coalition government over the last 5 years that enabled us to serve the people of Kenya. Your contribution has been invaluable in our development efforts. Most importantly, your legislative and oversight achievements have earned you a place in our nation's history. I also thank members of the 9th Parliament for their great contribution. I would also like to salute all those members of Parliament who have served our country since our independence. I take this opportunity to wish you success in all your future endeavors. Indeed, even those who will not be elected to any political offices during the next elections will have opportunities to contribute to national development in other capacities. To the next 11th Parliament, I extend my best wishes and God's blessings. Let me also wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I am glad to be launching a book with some of my contributions during my time in Parliament. It's my pleasure to present to you, Mr. Speaker, a copy of that book. I'll do it later on, not interfere with Parliament. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I think it is worthy of going on record to thank His Excellency the President for his generous gesture to donate to Parliament a book that he has written to give an indication of his thoughts. And it will be available to all members. From what I understand, there will be adequate supplies to give each of you a copy. What is it, Leader of Government Business? I haven't seen your request. Here we are.
It's there, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order because of what we've just heard, that exemplary, exciting presentation by His Excellency the President. And yet, Mr. Speaker, in accordance with Standing Order 16, and I quote, "The President, while occupying the chair of state, may on any day after disposal of all matters other than business and between all by way of interruption of any orders of the day, but not in relation to any order of the day, make a presidential statement," which he has already done, "which shall be heard in silence and not followed by any comment or question." Mr. Speaker, that standing order is prohibitive to the need for us to be able to take this opportunity as the 10th Parliament to felicitate His Excellency the President for his exemplary contribution to the well-being of this nation. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to invite you to consider invoking the provisions of Standing Order number 1, so that you are not seen to be going contrary to the standing orders, and allow this House, Mr. Speaker, to make a few comments in response to what His Excellency the President has said. Thank you, sir.
Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Order, honorable members. Indeed, I am awake to the provisions of Standing Order number 16, and I did cite it even as we started this session, in which His Excellency the President made his address. And honorable members, one of the elements that the President has picked out of my performance as your Speaker is that I have been strict with the law, I have been non-partisan. And I intend to tenuously stick to it. But I will say the following, honorable members. Standing Order number 16, so that we all follow. It provides as follows, in extenso: the President, while occupying the chair of state, A, may on any day after disposal of all matters other than business and between or by way of interruption of any orders of the day, but not in relation to any order of the day, make a presidential statement which shall be heard in silence and not followed by any comment or question. So the position is clear, and I'm glad, I want to commend you for having complied by hearing His Excellency the President in total silence. And after that address, it is not supposed to be followed by any comment or question. That means we cannot put the address by the President to question, so that we say, as many as are of this opinion say aye, as many as of a contrary opinion say nay. That we can't do. Neither should we comment on the President's address. But there is something you can do, which I'm going to allow, that if members feel inclined to appreciate the service of the President, both to the legislature, Parliament, or to the nation, then you will be at liberty to do so. But you cannot edit, censor, question the President's address. That is how we will proceed. Those of you who may wish to appreciate or acknowledge the President are at liberty to do so. Honorable Amos Kimunya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to record special thanks to His Excellency for finding time to be with us in the House, and to congratulate him for being the longest serving member of this House. And indeed, he may well have the record for being the longest serving member for a long time to come. And to pay special thanks to the people of Othaya for the steady support from 1974, and for allowing him to accumulate this wealth of experience and knowledge that has been so evident with the management of state affairs over the last 10 years. His Excellency has taught us the values of patience, humility, and focusing on the goal despite the usual challenges. And I hope all of us, and I trust from my own part, that we've all learned to take these vital lessons as we take Kenya forward. Mr. Speaker, with those words, I beg to record my special thanks for the exemplary service that the President has served this country, and I do hope that we've all learned a thing or two that we can use as we move forward into the future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Galsen.
Mr. Speaker, I'm standing on a point of order, Mr. Speaker. You are the head of this parliament, Mr. Speaker. You have given a very elaborate opinion of this House. As a representative of this House, you have said what needs to be said to His Excellency the President. Mr. Speaker, any other member of parliament speaking will diminish what is already there. Mr. Speaker, even trying to answer what the President is saying is diminishing what we all know to have. Mr. Speaker, let's leave this. We end this session and proceed to other business. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. I have heard you, member for Galsen, and indeed I've heard your sentiments, and they still accord with the directions that I have given. But we will still hear one or two members, and it depends on how they speak to the matter. I will want to ensure that we have gender parity, so I'll take Honorable Wavinya.
Yes.
It's on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I would really just like to take this opportunity, first of all, to thank you for thanking His Excellency for working on our behalf. And as a member of parliament and as an assistant minister in this government, I would also like to take the opportunity to really thank him for what he has done for the Republic of Kenya and giving the young people of this country opportunity. We want to say thank you, and as I said it very well in Syokimau when he was there. You don't have to say thank you to someone when he's gone. It is good to appreciate them when they are there. Your Excellency, we appreciate you for the good work that you have done for this country. You became a member of parliament before I was born. And I'm very happy and pleased to have worked with you at my age. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Asante sana.
The Honorable Abdul Kadir.
But you have given me the mouth. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, may I thank His Excellency the President for his support to the constitutional review process. I have been fortunate on behalf of this House to lead both the review of the Constitution and the implementation, and in both processes, the President and the Office of the President and the Office of the Prime Minister have been exceptionally cooperative. Most times, Mr. Speaker, this House has not had much cooperation from the ministers, but the President and the Prime Minister have been exceptionally cooperative as far as the implementation of the Constitution has been concerned. Indeed, a number of times, decisions of His Excellency were reversed, either by the courts or this House, and His Excellency has had the humility and the sense of leadership to accept those difficult decisions, which most chief executives may not have, to take the country forward. It is for that humility and for that sense of dedication that this House indeed extends its gratitude to His Excellency the President for 50 years of service to this nation and to this House. Thank you very much.
The member for Juja.
Asante Bwana Spika. Mheshimiwa Rais, kwa nafasi ya watu ya Juja, mimi nataka kukushukuru kwa kazi yako njema ya nchi hii, na ukistaafu maisha marefu. Mungu akubariki. Asante.
Member for Kisumu Rural, Kisumu Town Rural.
Mr. Speaker, I write to add my voice to those who have appreciated the speech of His Excellency, Mr. Speaker. But I just want to add two things which His Excellency was too humble to mention in his last years as the President of this country. One, Mr. Speaker, it is not easy to preside over a transition from an authoritarian rule to democratic one. In many countries, Mr. Speaker, it has always been a very turbulent period. But, Mr. Speaker, we must thank His Excellency for having presided over this transition and made it possible for us now to build a democratic society. Secondly and finally, Mr. Speaker, when I was Minister for Planning and National Development, and this country had had negative growth, Mr. President was capable of giving room to new thoughts so that new teams could be put in place to guide this country into rapid economic growth. And the results of that accomplishment, Mr. Speaker, can now be seen in Kenya marching towards being a second world. Mr. Speaker, finally, His Excellency, in that first 5 years, made it possible for Economic and Social Council to be established for the first time in this country, and therefore for the initiation of Vision 2030 to start. Mr. Speaker, these are no minor accomplishments in the history of a nation, and I'd like to commend His Excellency for this accomplishment and for the inheritance that is given Kenyan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Lamu West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for affording me this opportunity to also express my personal gratitude and the gratitude of the people I represent, the people of Lamu West, for the excellent work that His Excellency has done during his 10 years as our head of state and head of government. We are particularly grateful in Lamu for the title deeds that His Excellency the President was instrumental in getting our people, for rural electrification, for free education, for the Lamu port, for improved security, and so many other things that other Kenyans also enjoy, like free education and the other things. Your Excellency, we've learned a lot from you with regard to tolerance and being magnanimous as a leader, and not being a leader focused on issues and not a malicious leader. We've seen contrast between your leadership and leadership that we've seen in the past. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and we wish you a happy retirement and long, healthy life. Thank you.
For Marakwet East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to sincerely thank His Excellency the President for embracing me when I came to Parliament and my constituents, and thank him that since he took leadership as the President of this country, my constituents who slept in caves, Your Excellency, now sleep in houses. I want to thank you for the security we've enjoyed in your tenure. You did write about your agenda for Marakwet. Though it's not yet complete, the people of the Embobut Glades have seen light at the end of the tunnel that soon they will be resettled. So on behalf of the Marakwet constituents, famously referred to as Othayandogo, I want to thank you.
The member for Motito. The Honorable Kema Kilonzo.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wish to join my colleagues to congratulate His Excellency the President. I joined this parliament 10 years ago when he started his presidency, and as he leaves the presidency, Mr. Speaker, to go for retirement, I would be leaving this parliament to go and start my new job as the governor of Kitui. Mr. Speaker, the president would be remembered for the infrastructure, Mr. Speaker, in this country. The few days Mr. President will be in office, just to complete his job on infrastructure, I think he would remember the road from Kibwezi to Kitui, which he promised to do as he goes to retire. I thank you, Mr. President.
Member for Kitutu Chache.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand here to congratulate a great man. Mr. Speaker, I happen to be a son of a man who worked with the president. And on several occasions when we would ask him how he would rate the people he worked with, Mr. Speaker, my father once commented and said, President Kibaki is the president Kenya would never have, and he's always much deeper than you see him. I'm glad that Kenyans made him the president of this country. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I also want to say on behalf of the people of Gusii County, I appreciate and will always honor the fact that the President constantly visited Gusii County and Your Excellency, President Kibaki. Thank you and retire well. Thank you.
The Honorable Attorney General.
Mr. Speaker, I want on behalf of those people who sit in this House who are unelected, unlike my colleagues, which means me and you, to thank most sincerely His Excellency the President. I would like, Mr. Speaker, to thank the President for bringing to the people of Kenya, restoring to this nation and its people self-respect, dignity, self-confidence, and pride. For that, we are eternally grateful.
Other honorable members will pick the Honorable Kiraitu Murungi. Honorable Kiraitu, can you speak from the dispatch box?
Speaker, I want the luck and the privilege to serve with the President for 20 years in this House out of his 49 years. But I think our most memorable days were days in the opposition. Mr. Speaker, sir, we all remember the wit, the humor, and the eloquence which the President addressed the various debates we had in opposition when he was the leader of the opposition between 1997 and the year 2002. I am sure some of those speeches will appear in that book, and I want to sincerely thank and congratulate him for those days. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable James Orengo.
Can I speak? Thank
Honorable James Orengo. Press.
Oh, it's on. Thank you.
Can you now proceed, Honorable James Orengo?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I just want to make a brief remark, really. And I want, probably through you, Mr. Speaker, sir, to remind His Excellency, and I agree with the Honorable Kiraitu that those who were in this House when the President was an active member of the House in the debates, that most of the time you'd find that when the President was speaking, the House would be in total silence. Because I remember me as a new member in this House, and I hope that is not in that book because it not put me in very good light. And I stood up on a point of order, and the President stood up and said, the honorable member who has stood on a point of order was obviously not listening to what we are saying. And if he was listening, he probably would not have understood what we are talking about. So I was completely flawed. And indeed, when I stood on that point of order, it was not to contribute in the debate, it was for purposes of mischief. And by sheer wit and retort, which sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we miss in this current House. I think there was a time in this House where debate was so full of mirth and wit, of which the President and I think very few other members in this House could reach that standard of debate. And I very much miss his contributions in the House, both sides of the House, whether as leader of government business or as a leader in the opposition. So I also join my fellow members of Parliament to wish you a long life, but continue to give service to this nation, because I think Kenya has truly come up with a statesman who will help this country in the process of transition, which must continue. Thank you.
Honorable Maison Lashomo.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia hii nafasi hata mimi nishikane na wenzangu kwa kutoa shukrani kwa Mheshimiwa Rais kwa ile kazi yote amefanya katika Kenya. Imefurahiwa aswa kwa kutoa shukrani kwa Samburu, kwa ma community kwa kutupatia nafasi ya kuingia bunge hii ile hatukupata kwa miaka tangu uhuru ipatikane. Tunashukuru sana. Hiyo ni record haitasaulika katika ma community. Asante.
Member for Nigeria.
Mr. Speaker, I also want to join my colleagues because I had the pleasure of serving with His Excellency the President in the 7th Parliament. And he was very much a mentor along with the late Sagini and Jaramogi. They had a lot of influence on our political thought, our patriotism. When we came out as radical opposition, young people who were prepared to talk on the system, I really appreciated the way he respected the law, he respected the standing orders, he respected the Constitution, and he calmed the young radicals not to break the laws themselves. And I remember one time, because of a fracas that was here, and James Orengo remembers it very much, and people tried to take the mess from the opposition. And His Excellency told us, you can't do that. You have to respect the law. You have to respect the institution. You have to respect the rules of democracy. So the magnanimity, the humility, the respect for law, the respect for the standing orders are things that we picked up in those early days. And one other thing I remember very well is that one time, he never, by the way, referred to any notes when he was contributing in the House. The other one who was exceptionally brilliant like him is the late Onyonka. I can never forget. And the late Deputy Speaker, Bonea Godana, was on the chair. And His Excellency made a comment while he was contributing from the floor. And there was a direction given by the late, which the members of Parliament in the opposition did not take too kindly to. So we had an uproar. And he called us and he said, the Speaker is doing the right thing. And many of them, I remember one or two members from DP and others who are young, he said, that is exactly what the rule says. So you have to respect the Speaker. And these are the kind of things that I will remember him myself for all these years, and the wisdom and the way he tried to mentor us in the common room there. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for all the good things you've done for this country. I'm sure the nation will remember you.
Member for Imenti Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me, on behalf of the people of Central Imenti, and the larger Meru in general, who have overwhelmingly supported him with their votes over the last 10 years, also record my appreciation to the President for an exceptionally meritorious parliamentary service. Mr. Speaker, as the President enters the history books as the longest-serving member of Parliament, he will go home a happy man. Happy man in the sense, Mr. Speaker, that he has achieved what many of us thought is not possible within our lifetimes. And that is the promulgation of the new Constitution. Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege of serving under the President when he was the leader of official opposition. And I remember those days, like James Orengo and Mheshimiwa Kiraitu Murungi say, we recall them for the manner in which he set the pace for bringing the government to account. So, Mr. Speaker, as the President goes home, we also would like to appreciate that he has added one of the greatest contributions he has made as a President and as a politician is to add on to our political lexicon. And Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by borrowing from that political lexicon by telling the President, would you enjoy when your retirement? Thank you.
Member for Matuga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, I would like to thank His Excellency the President and also join my colleagues in congratulating him for what he has done for this country. We as politicians, Your Excellency, and through Mr. Speaker, sir, would like to emulate great politicians so that we also become equally great. But it will be extremely difficult for us to achieve what you have achieved. I'm a very ambitious man. I've tried that. When I learned that you served as the executive officer of Kano, I made sure that years later I became one. That I did. And then I said, but this gentleman is a member of Parliament. I was elected 10 years ago, and I thank you very much for having appointed me a minister for all these years. But then I will not break your record. I don't think I'll do 50 years as a member of Parliament. If I happen to do that, then I'll set the world record as the longest living human being for this year. I also have ambitions to be president of this country. However, I'm ready and I've already declared where my interest is. So I've given up on that. Your Excellency, you have served us very, very well. We people from the Coast Province are proud of what you've done for the country, and we remain as one country. Thank you.
Member for Vihiga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At least you have now noticed taken account of the regional balance. I want to thank His Excellency the President for a major achievement. This being a developing country and the education being the key to what we want to achieve. What he has put in place on the free primary education and secondary is a milestone, and I only hope that whoever takes over from him will improve on it much better and even make the education at primary level and secondary level free, so that as many children in this country can have a basic education. Thank you, Your Excellency, and all the best in your retirement.
Member for Kuria.
Mr. Speaker, sir, allow me to appreciate and thank the services His Excellency the President Mwai Kibaki has given to this country. On behalf of the minorities and hitherto marginalized communities of this country, allow me to show just a little example on what he has done. In my own community, the Kuria people, for the first time in the history of Kenya, we were given the opportunity to serve in the cabinet as full cabinet minister. We had an ambassador, albeit briefly. That will not be forgotten in the history of Kenya. Thank you, and God bless you.
Member for Mathira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to thank the President. I stand to say that we have a testimony that the President inspired some of us. That's why we are in this house. The President remains, to my constituents, to my county of Nyeri, as actually one of the best examples of leadership. And Mr. Speaker, one interesting thing is that the President has hardly changed. As he has moved, we have known him from a member of parliament to vice president and now to the president. He has remained natural. It's not very easy, Mr. Speaker, and we all learn that we should emulate that kind of humility, to remain yourself, to remain natural, and to remain committed to the ideals and the virtues you hold. Mr. Speaker, I want to assure His Excellency that the people from his home area, they are looking forward that there has been a president, and I believe with the prayers there will be another one in the future from the same area. It's a great inspiration, Mr. President, and the President will be most welcome in his retirement. We will call upon him, Mr. President, for counsel when and as time requires. Mr. President, may God bless you as you go to your retirement. Thank you.
Member for Kilgoris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me also appreciate His Excellency the President for the service to this country. I want to remember a day when he was the leader of the opposition, and I was a military colonel. And on 3 occasions, we played golf together. And he didn't care who was playing with him. He was just a member. And indeed, I appreciate, because when we went to sit down after the golf, I ease myself out when politicians start coming, and I go to my barracks. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the day now when I can come back and look for you to play golf. Lastly, the people of Kilgoris are still looking forward to your visit there. Indeed, you had told them there will be 2 projects, a highway road going through Honorable Machaga's place to the northern and southern corridor, the southern corridor, and the international airport in Kilgoris. So we are still looking for you to come and inaugurate them before you retire. Thank you.
Member for Kaloleni. Member for Kaloleni. You are switching yourself off, member for Kaloleni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kaloleni, Kasungu Kambe.
Already given the floor to me, Mr. Speaker.
No, that is by error.
Can I go ahead?
Carry on, member for Kaloleni.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia wakati mwanzo kukushukuru na kumshukuru Mheshimiwa Rais. Ni mengi yale ambayo ameyafanya, tukianza kuyasema nafikiri usiku utaingia Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini watu wa Kaloleni wanamshukuru na yeye wanamuita profesa hasa wa mabarabara, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika walipata mabarabara, walipata maendeleo kwa wakati wake na nchi kwa jumla. Sitasema mengi Mheshimiwa Rais, tunakuombea maisha marefu na Mungu akubariki. Asante.
The member for Silesia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we were in this house in the 7th Parliament, one day the President, as he then was on the floor, and a member from across the floor heckled at him, and he just said, obviously that man does not belong here. And that is the kind of parliament he expected to have, without hecklers, people with dignity. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I think the best summation of the President and his conduct was recently given by the President of Tanzania, Jakaya Kikwete, when he told the President, and I quote in Kiswahili, Mr. President, I like your style. Watu wanasema maneno mingi na wewe unanyamaza tu. Wanasema maneno mingi na wewe unanyamaza tu. Hiyo ndio style mimi napenda. Na Wakenya wanasema maneno zaidi. Endelea kunyamaza na kuwaongoza. That, I think, was one of the best summations from your brother Kikwete on what you have been. on behalf of the people of Sirisia, Bungoma County, I also wish you well in your retirement, and I hope that in the remaining period, for all the work you have done for this country and the support you have enjoyed, you'll take an opportunity to visit what were the former 8 provinces and say kwaheri to the people of this country. Thank you.
Member for Eldoret East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join my colleagues in thanking His Excellency for the wonderful service he has given this country for 49 years, longer than the age of some of our colleagues. I want to thank you, Your Excellency, for your commitment and dedication to this nation. And I want to thank you on behalf of the education sector, in particular for the efforts that you have made, starting from free primary education, free secondary, and the improvements that you have put in the university sector. Your Excellency, I want to thank you most sincerely for ascending to the bill, the universities bill, a week ago, and to also inform members that you will be going around to do the offering of the charters to 15 new universities, which I want to thank you again for accepting to open up the sector so that we have more universities. And members should know, Your Excellency, that you are not finished with your programs yet until you go to Pwani University College, Mombasa Polytechnic, Kisii, Bondo, Kabianga, Meru, Chuka, Seuko, in Northeastern, Chepkoilel, Karatina, Multimedia, Kenya Polytechnic, Narok, and Laikipia. We want to thank you that you have just started an agenda with us, which is going to enable you to talk to the nation, as was said by the Honorable Member of Sirisia. And we believe as a sector that you are actually going to leave a very strong legacy. We thank you, we wish you well, and God bless you.
Member for Olkalau. Press request.
I have done.
Okay, carry on.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to take this opportunity to join my colleagues in thanking our President for the wonderful job he has done. Maybe it doesn't know to us who have come from that area, he is our mentor. When we were young, we used to hear of Makerere University. And what we did, we read very hard so that at least we could go to Makerere. We used to hear that he went to London University. We all looked forward also to go to the University of London. Mr. Speaker, sir, he has been our mentor. Even to come to Parliament was a way of following our leader who has done well. I take this opportunity on behalf of people of Nyandarua to thank him for having remembered us and given us a road that has opened in Nyandarua, and our foodstuffs are now able to come this side. And for that, Mr. Speaker, sir, the President, we are welcoming him to Kieni West, which is also our place, so that maybe we can visit him and we slaughter 1 or 2 goats and we eat together as he enjoys his retirement. May God bless him and endow him with a long life. God bless you, our President.
Honorable Kingi, Amason Kingi, press intervene so that I can catch you quickly. Log into intervene. Yes, that's right. Carry on.
Asante Bwana Spika kunipatia fursa hii, angalau pia na mimi nitoe shukrani zangu kwa niaba yangu binafsi na kwa niaba ya watu wanaoleta hapa bunge, watu wa Magarini. Pia mimi ningependa kupeana shukrani zangu kwa rais wetu kwa kazi njema aliyofanya. Ikiwa kuna kitu ambacho nimejifunza kama kijana kutoka kwa mzee wetu, rais wetu, ni nguvu ya maneno machache. ama nguvu ya kimya, the power of silence. Mheshimiwa Rais ni mchache sana kwa maneno, lakini kama tujuavyo, mtu yote ambaye ni mchapakazi hatumii kinywa chake wakati mwingi, na kwa sababu ya yale alotufanyia, kusema kweli, kama Wakenya, kama wabunge wa bunge hili la 10, tunaweza kusema kwamba tunaweza weka kifua mbele na kumwambia Mheshimiwa Rais asante, na kumwombea kwamba maisha yake akielekea kule kustafu, kwamba Mwenyezi Mungu ampatie maisha marefu yasiokuwa na bugdha. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Rais, asante sana.
Member for Eldoret North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join my colleagues in congratulating His Excellency the President on his final address to this House as he goes into a well-deserved retirement. Mr. Speaker, I had the privilege of serving in the 8th Parliament when the President was the leader of the opposition. And I was then age 31 when I first came into this House. And I had His Excellency, the President, who was leader of the opposition then, after the presidential address by the former President. And he made the following comment. He said, Mr. Speaker, I wish to support this general statement that has been made by the President. And I was really angered because I then thought, while everybody said it was a great statement of exposition of government policy, as leader of the opposition, the President, though recognizing that it was a statement that made by the President, he had his opinion, and he made it very clear. And from that day, Mr. Speaker, I have watched. And although I have never had occasion to vote for His Excellency, I must say that I appreciate the exemplary performance that he has shown and he has demonstrated to this country. Mr. Speaker, I had occasion to serve in the coalition government. And I must admit that working with His Excellency the President was the best thing that I can remember of his legacy. He encouraged me then as minister, and in fact I remember on one occasion he asked me, Mr. Minister, are you sure the fertilizer that is subsidized has actually gotten into the country? I told him, yes, sir. And he told me that he wanted to launch that program himself. And he actually honored the appointment and did exactly that. Mr. President, as you go on retirement, know that the rest of us whom you have left behind have learned truly the slogan of kusema na kutenda from you. And we will follow in your footsteps in making sure that leadership matches what they say with what they do. Thank you very much.
Member for Kangundo.
Nakushukuru Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi nami niweze kuungana na wenzangu kumshukuru Rais kwa mambo ambayo ni mengi sana amefanyia taifa hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kutaja mambo mawili ambao Wakenya kamwe hawatasahau katika maisha yao. Jambo la kwanza ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Rais ametoa elimu ya bure kwa watoto wa maskini ambao kila siku inakuja na inaenda. Kila mzazi anamuombea Rais kwa kuona kwamba mtoto wake anasoma bila tabu. Jambo la pili, Mheshimiwa Spika, namshukuru Rais ni kwamba amewaondolea wazazi maskini mzigo wa kuitishwa pesa ya harambee ya kujenga mashule. Mheshimiwa Spika, Rais akatoa elimu ya bure na vile vile akatoa pesa ya kujenga shule watoto wasome bila kuhangaika. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Rais, mimi nataka kukuambia kwamba shukrani zangu ni kwamba hivi leo unapoondoka na unapoanza kuondoka, ukumbuke ya kwamba Wakenya wote na hasa maskini ambao ndio Mungu anasikia maombi yao wanakuombea siku nenda siku rudi. Kwa hivyo Mungu akujalie ni akuongezee nguvu zaidi za kuweza kutumikia taifa na vile vile kuwasaidia watakaoingia katika uongozi, kwani uongozi wako hauna masengenyo, hauna chuki. Tumekaa hapa, umetuacha tufanye kazi yetu na hujatutumana kuingia katika ofisi ya Rais kuanza kutusurudisha na maneno ya kwamba ulisikia hii na ulisikia hii. Mungu akubariki.
Member for Laikipia East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me join my colleagues and also thanking and at the same time congratulating His Excellency the President, whom I have worked with for the last 15 years. Mr. Speaker, I am among the few Kenyans whom His Excellency attended their wedding. I thank him for the bull that he gave me during my wedding, where he participated from morning to the evening. Thank you, Your Excellency. Mr. Speaker, also I'm among the very few whom His Excellency paid for their college fee. Mr. Speaker, when I came to Parliament as a teacher, having a Bachelor of Education, I decided to pursue a Bachelor in Law. And His Excellency paid for 3 years, but I'm sorry, Your Excellency, I did not clear. Now that you are retiring and there is no much involvement, I'll be requesting that next year you pay for the extra 1 year so that I can graduate. The people of Laikipia will never forget you, because Your Excellency, by the time you are being elected, there were no single road in Laikipia, and today the area is completely opened up. The issue of insecurity in Laikipia East is a thing of the past. In fact, Nyeri is not secure than Laikipia. And therefore, the people of Laikipia remember you. I also remember you. And Deventry, you are retiring in my neighborhood. I want to assure you that I'll be visiting you now and then, in most occasions, so that at least we can continue comparing notes now that I'm the party leader of GNU. And you originated the DP, which really was a real encouragement to all of us. I've learned very much about life from you, Your Excellency. Your Excellency, we have taken your footstep, and I believe most of the young people in this country, you never forget you. Lastly, Your Excellency, when I was nominated to run on the DP ticket, 1997, so many people challenged my ticket. If it was not for you, Your Excellency, I would not have been sitting here today, because you are very categorical that even if that young man comes from a poor family, he should be given an opportunity to serve the people of Laikipia. I thank you, Your Excellency.
Member for Rongo. We picked you and you discontinued yourself. Try again. Go to intervene, log in.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In conveying our appreciations to the service of His Excellency President Kibaki, I wish it goes on record one or two statements which Honorable Kibaki has made that has greatly influenced my thinking. At one time, the party used to employ a number of individuals literally to harass His Excellency the President in his backyard in Nyeri. and he burst out slightly in anger that the challenge in our political practice at present is that amongst us there are a few small brains with great expectations. And in private conversations, Mr. Speaker, there were light moments that we had great things to learn from His Excellency the President. He used to say, definitely there is something good in you. Please use that which is good in you for the benefit of the people. And as a fellow economist, most people ignore these little things, but they are great when said by a great man. That if you spend your life continuously reviewing and assessing what is good in you, the gift that God made of you amongst us, and strive to use it for the benefit of our people, the sum total is progress for everybody. It means, therefore, in my thinking, that each of us, Mr. Speaker, has the good and the bad, the normal dynamics in society. And the more you use the good in you, the better for the whole political economy. And the more you do the opposite without thinking, as Honorable Orengo testified, you are dragging the country backwards. Your Excellency, I wish it is recorded that in your experience with us for so many decades in political practice, we have learned that each of us have something good in us, and that the more of our good side that we apply in the management of our public affairs, the better for our society. And if we do the reverse, we are doing a disservice to our society. Please retire well. We record this and we'll remember it all. Thank you.
Ambassador Afe.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity also to congratulate the President and to wish him well on behalf of the party, Mr. Speaker, that has nominated me. That's the Wiper Democratic Movement, and code now for all practical purposes. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the President. And Mr. Speaker, when I came to Parliament first, in the 8th Parliament, I happened to be one of the young deputy ministers. At that time, I was the Assistant Minister for Foreign Affairs. And the President was always concerned about peace in the region. And many times, Mr. Speaker, he asked me to brief him about the situation in Somalia. I'm now very happy that under his leadership, he has exercised the vision he had for peace in this region. I want to wish him well. I know he has a lot of energy and desire to make peace in this region, not only in Kenya, but also in the region of Africa and East Africa. Mr. Speaker, I wish to say that President Kibaki should be utilized as a diplomat and as a special envoy to make peace in the parts of the world that have experienced hostility. And as you retire, Mr. President, please instruct the Minister for Roads to complete the road work from Garissa to Mandera, because then you can link up Garissa to Kismayu, and the region then will be open. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
For Kacheliba.
I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, for recognizing Kacheliba. On behalf of the people of Kacheliba, on my own behalf, and the Pokot community, I want to voice my congratulations to His Excellency the President. I first met him in the 5th Parliament when I came in as a young graduate, and I shook his hand as Vice President outside this House and got the determination to join this House as a member. The following Parliament, the 6th Parliament, I sat with him in this House. And although my stint in the House was cut short, and for the record, Mr. Speaker, probably the shortest serving member of the 6th Parliament. Because 3 months, I think, into my election, I was expelled from the Chamama Nababa at the time. I'm not so sure that, I'm very sure the President was not party to my expulsion at that particular time. But Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency has opened up the otherwise impossible northern Kenya. That's something we'll never forget. When you hear of a road going from Isiolo all the way to Marsabit, these are things which have been next to impossible. And we must congratulate him that as he goes to retire, he knows that he has made Kenya one country through the infrastructure program that he has made. And I think for me, I would just want to say thank you. May God bless you. And please continue to be of service to your country. I want to thank you. God bless.
Member for Kisauni.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa nafasi hii muhimu ya kuweza kumwombea na kumshukuru rais wetu. Na sisi Waswahili wasema viongozi ama binadamu hukumbukwa na matendo yake, na itaingia katika kumbukumbu ya nchi hii kwa matendo ya rais alotutendea, hasa wa Kenya kwa jumla. Kwa niaba ya watu wa Mombasa County, Kisauni na Mombasa County kwa jumla, ni hivi juzi tu tuliweza kuwa na Mheshimiwa Rais katika bandari ya Mombasa akianzisha mradi wa kuongeza uwezo wa biashara katika kaunti ya Mombasa. Na niligundua kwamba mara ya mwisho mradi ulifanyika katika kaunti ya Mombasa, bandari ya Mombasa, ilikuwa ni mwaka wa 1980, na ambapo yeye pia alikuwa ameshughulika kama waziri wa fedha siku hizo kuhakikisha mradi umefanyika. Na vile vile nina habari kwamba, na natamani kabla Mheshimiwa Rais aende nyumbani kupumzika, aje aweke jiwe la msingi katika Dongo Kundu bypass ambayo imekuwa tukizungumzia siku nyingi, lakini na hakika itakuwa sasa. La mwisho nataka nimjulishe Mheshimiwa Rais kwamba pale Nyali Golf Club alivyokuwa akiwa zamani akitembea kuna nafasi, zile green na fairway zimetengezwa hali ya kwamba atakuwa akijienjoy wakati wa retirement akitembea kule Mombasa. Na sisi kama vijana tuko tayari kuendeleza sera njema ambaye Mheshimiwa Rais ameanzisha. I thank you na nakuombea kila laheri Mheshimiwa. Thank you very much.
Member for Kitui Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I stand to congratulate His Excellency the President as he retires. It has been a pleasure for me to work with him for the last 20 years in this House. When I first was elected in Democratic Party of Kenya ticket, and almost the only person in a Kanu zone of Ukambani, and I was in the first meeting of Democratic Party, and I said to him how difficult it was to be in opposition in that area. He said to me, "It will be okay, this is going to be a long struggle." And I thought that was, first of all, very encouraging. Two, I expected him to say that he was going to be part of this struggle with me. And then the other thing that I noticed about him is that every time we wanted to take little political gossips to him, he would not allow to be part of any political gossips. I would like to encourage all other members of parliament now to really emulate his example in leadership, and anybody also who becomes a president of Kenya, never to accept any political gossips, because political gossips can be very costly. I want to wish His Excellency all the best, and indeed as he retires, there's going to be a lot more work for him still to do in politics, and especially in helping the young politicians to do well in what they know how to do best. I wish him all the best, Your Excellency, and thank you so much for having worked with us.
Member for Aliada.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for noticing me. Like the Honorable Wavinya Ndeti, I was not yet born when the President first came to this House. But, Mr. Speaker, by the time he became Vice President, I was actually in class 7, and when he became President, I was a practicing engineer. Mr. Speaker, as one of only 200 Kenyans privileged to be a registered consulting engineer and the Member of Parliament for Rarieda, I want to thank His Excellency most sincerely for what we have seen under his leadership. When he took over in 2002, we didn't have a single meter of tarmac in Rarieda, but by the time he's leaving, we have over 100 kilometers, 90 kilometers of which have been done in the last 4 years. Your Excellency, I thank you. But, Mr. Speaker, I note that His Excellency did all these things as a human being with human failings like all of us. As a Kenyan and someone who deeply believes in this country, and of course someone also who has children for whom I expect a secure future, there are issues that concern me, and I think there's a concern all Kenyans, and this is the issue of security, youth and employment, national cohesion, and societal conviviality among the different groups in Kenya. As His Excellency goes into retirement, I would request him to reflect upon these issues, because in my view, these 4 issues have been responsible for holding back the promise of Kenya. I wish to pray to the Almighty God that whoever shall get the privilege to succeed His Excellency the President shall not only tackle these 4 issues head on, but do it with absolute zeal. I pray to God to bless His Excellency the President, to bless our country, which in my view is the most beautiful place on earth, and also to bless all of us.
The member for Dakoreti, and please just use 2 minutes. We still have 27 more requests, but we will see how to deal with them.
Thank you, Speaker. Let me also join my colleagues in congratulating and thanking His Excellency for a job well done. He's leaving Kenya far much better than he found it. Your Excellency, you have especially been very sensitive to affirmative action. I want to say here that DP, when you led the DP, brought to Parliament 4 women against 1 of the ruling party at that time. And since then, we have seen the numbers of women increase in this House. And not only that, in your cabinet, where there used to be just 1 woman or so, or 2, now we have several. We thank you for the affirmative action on behalf of the women. And on behalf of the Dagoretti people, and on my own behalf, and the ministry that I serve, we thank you and wish you a peaceful, prosperous, long life as you retire. We thank you also on behalf of Nairobi, the greater Nairobi. Thank you.
The member for Mwingi North, and in his capacity as leader of government business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, we can go on and trying to thank God for the life and the times of President Mwai Kibaki. Going down the memory lane, I remember that when he felt greatly offended, as Honorable Damaso Tieno has tried to point out, he actually went the extra mile and said, because there was those days rigging was becoming the order of the day, and President Kibaki actually was quoted saying, even rigging requires some intelligence. I recall, Your Excellency, as leader of the opposition, one time we all came to this House, and the chanting was, no reform, no budget. Now see how far you have brought this country, because you're on to solid reform because of our new constitution, and the future holds bright. Your Excellency, in Africa, leaders leave office when they are least popular. If today an opinion poll, a genuine opinion poll was carried out, I think Your Excellency will be scoring over 90%. And this is truly phenomenal if one comes to think of it. And therefore, as we wish you well, as we wish you God's blessings into happy retirement, one of the things members of Parliament had actually requested me to mention was during this year's presidential awards, it's only member for Vihiga the Honorable Yusuf Chanzu, was actually honored. And I think Honorable Abdi Kadir, for which we are grateful. But the way this House has applied itself, the 10th Parliament, Your Excellency, in fact, I dare suggest if there's be any member who is not actually honored to date, a way could be found to really get all of them appropriately honored, because they've delivered a new constitution. They are truly deserving. They have worked. They have actually been your co-laborers in making this country better. We thank you and we wish you God's blessings. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Honorable members, we have to bring this to a close, and the time is now, which essentially brings us to the end of business for today. And please, honorable members, all be upstanding. And please remain standing until His Excellency will have left after adjournment. The House now stands adjourned until Thursday, the 20th of December, 2012 at 2:30 p.m.
It's been a special